Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at the Voltec engineer. That's the guy you can see on screen right now. And as always, I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first part of the video, and in the second part of the video we're going to take a look at the perks, mutations, equipment and everything else. So let's get right into it. What this character is going to be about is we're playing as a hybrid between a power armor heavy gunner and a power armor commando character. Basically this here character build was, in its core at least, a suggestion from one of my followers, from one of my subscribers. So thank you, buddy, for making a suggestion here. And as you probably know, in the past I have looked a little bit more into hybrid builds every now and then. Now, one thing that should be a certainty is that obviously hybrid builds, meaning character builds that use multiple different weapon classes, are never going to be the best in their respective classes, for the simple reason that you do have to invest quite heavily into damage perks, and yeah, doing that for multiple weapon classes means that you will fall short in other departments, and mainly we're talking about survivability perks or utility perks here. And this here combination of a heavy gunner and a commando hybrid, while it's one of those that I see more regularly than other hybrids, I was always a little bit confused because I thought that this wasn't really a combination that worked well together. And let me explain why I think this. First and foremost, for heavy guns you basically want to be in power armor for the most part, and for commando classes you pretty much want to stay out of power armor for the most case, because where the shine is in VATS, and using VATS combined with power armor isn't really the most sensible idea. It can be done, it needs some investment in my opinion, and you definitely run through fusion cores relatively fast. So this in and of itself is a reason why I personally didn't really think of this combination, and there's more to it. So the heavy gunner class basically draws its damage perks from strength, which isn't really useful for commando classes. And commando classes, they do need their they do draw their damage and basically most of their important perks from perception, which doesn't do a whole lot for heavy weapons. So another big thing is, if you want to use VATS, you really need to specialize into certain heavy weapons, and only certain commando weapons work well outside of VATS in my opinion. So there was a lot of compromises to be made here, and basically what I found out is that the build works very fine. The main thing you have to keep in mind though is to choose the right weapons for your build. So basically I was thinking about the build and had two different approaches. The first approach was either to make a power armor VATS character, which I have done in the past, and to use therefore the right equipment. So what I thought about was using basically plasma weaponry, using a plasma caster as our main weapon, and then use a automatic plasma rifle as our secondary or DPS build a little bit. So you want to have something with high DPS in order to deal with bosses. The thing is though, if you do that you really stretch yourself a little bit thin, because you want to have strength high and perception high for your basic damage perks, but in addition to that you want to have high agility and high luck because you want to use VATS efficiently. And then using power armor means that you basically want to have a good bit of intelligence going on, because there are a few very beneficial perks in intelligence for when you're using power armor. And overall that would have just left me with basically only charisma and endurance as dump stats, and yeah, that's a lot of investment here. So what I went for was to try and make a character that didn't rely on VATS, because this in and of itself was enough to give me two more dumb stats. Now they're not really dumb stats, but I don't really have to bother too much with luck as well as agility. Those two stats are not all that important to me now. And yeah, this was the sensible decision in my opinion. And yet again, you just have to choose the right equipment. And as you can see here, what we're using is we're using a Gatling weapon, a Gatling laser. Basically, this is our way to deal with bosses. And while we're not having the greatest DPS here, which you can see, I choose a Vampire's faster fire rate version. So basically, we can just wear down tougher enemies without having to fear anything. We're basically immortal as long as we're wielding this thing. Yeah, using a Vampire's Gatling laser or any high fire rate Vampire's weapon. Yeah, it's not any secret or anything. So you're tanky enough so that what you could do would easily be to just use another Gatling laser. Think about something like an anti-armor version. You could turn this whole build into a Junkies version, would work very well. And also, this build would work very well as a bloodied build. As always, basically, with very few exceptions, you can always make bloodied builds work. So, there's a lot of approaches here. I ultimately went with an anti-armor faster fire rate Tesla rifle and a Vampire's faster fire rate ultrasight Gatling laser. So as you saw there, we're not breaking any time records when dealing with enemies, with tougher enemies, just because the damage output of our Gatling laser isn't the greatest, but it makes the game very easy. You just have to wear down your enemy a little bit over time. And basically what you end up with is a build that's very suited for pretty much every single situation. It's very good for leveling in my opinion, so you have high base intelligence, which is a nice starting point for leveling, but also the fact that you're using a Tesla rifle as one of your main weapons means that at events you're having an easy time tagging a lot of enemies. So I'm sure that's not a secret either. Basically, if you've been to a few public events, you more or less seen people run around with Tesla rifles. As I said, no big deal here. And yeah, ultimately I really was quite happy with how the build turned out. Now there's two little bits of improvement that I would have liked to have in my build, but ultimately didn't really bother with. So the first one is a pretty obvious one. I'm not using any good power armor set here. I'm using T51 because I really like the skin, and nothing against T51. I do like that power armor set a lot. The thing is, it's not really modded. I think if I remember correctly from the top of my head, I only have one modification here, which is a torso mod. I think it's reactive plates even. So nothing all that great, especially for our character. What I would have ultimately went for if I decided to dump the resources in here, basically I think the best version would be core assembly plan, just to give you a little bit more AP refresh, not that you're actually needing it or anything. Or what you could do is use a jetpack for little boosts here and there, if you want to use that. So in terms of the torso, yeah, nothing really too important. And another thing I didn't really do is bother with calibrated shocks for my legs, giving me more carry weight. So that's something to keep in mind when we're looking at the character later. You see that I'm pretty close to the maximum carry weight, but yeah, you could easily buffed it by another 100 carry weight just by using the calibrated shocks. And the other improvement that I decided against ultimately was using power user, the perk in intelligence, in order to give me a bigger magazine size with the Gatling laser. So pretty sure all of you know this, but the Gatling laser has a standard ammo capacity of 500 per fusion core, and using power user makes it so you have 1000 shots per. The reason I decided against it is this is a plain benefit, obviously. Just gives you twice as much ammo basically, but I didn't really bother to do so because I would have had to level up 3 more times in order to do so, which didn't really feel at the point of time, at least to me, as if it was a necessary decision. Ultimately, our Gatling laser here isn't really something we use all of the time. It's basically just our backup weapon for, as I said, when we're killing bosses or something. Other than on a lot of builds, a lot of weapons, giving you more ammo capacity doesn't increase your DPS a whole lot, because you can fire this thing for ages anyway, and the reload time isn't crazy, so in terms of DPS you're not missing out on a whole lot of a benefit. It's basically just, yeah, you're consuming more fusion cores, and this was just something I didn't really think was an issue here. So you still have 500 shots with a fusion core, and that felt like it was a good amount here. One thing I noticed is, using a faster fire rate Tesla, you often reload prematurely. You saw that just a second ago, where we had 11 shots left in our magazine, but we still started to reload. Now, if you don't want to bother with that, you can just use a bashing attack, and you're basically resetting the weapon, and it starts with, you can shoot again with your 11 shots that are still in the magazine. We do have one rank of ground pounder though, so keep in mind it's not super crazy reload time or anything, and basically we're tanky enough, so it doesn't really matter if we're having more reload breaks or anything. Overall, this build is very solid. There's not a whole lot of limits to it, and if anything, the downside would be, in my opinion, that the DPS against tougher enemies is relatively low. That's basically the only disadvantage. So if you're rocking up at, let's say, the Scorched Earth event or anything, you basically just want to carry yet another weapon, keep something in your stash box, for example. Think about something like a anti-armor faster fire at Gatling Plasma. That would probably be the easiest decision to make here, or as I said, an anti-armor faster fire rate, Gatling laser, something like this, and you're fine again. Still, the Gatling laser itself isn't the greatest weapon of all time, but I do really like it. I like the aesthetic of it, wielding it. Feels very solid, especially in combination with stabilized. Yeah, it's very precise, but still has a lot of damage output. Now, another thing that could be controversial, which I went for here, is the barrels that I'm using for the ultrasight Gatling laser. I went with the charging barrels, which basically give you way more damage per shot, but drastically decrease your fire rate. Overall, your DPS is better if you're just using the standard, or especially the accelerated barrels, for more fire rate, burning through more fusion cores in the process, but overall what you end up with is just way more DPS. On this occasion though, I felt, because we had the faster fire rate legendary effect, we could get away with using the charging barrels, just to first and foremost counter a little bit that we're not using power user, and on the second hand it just gives you a bit more of a precise feeling. And you saw the build in action, you saw the Gatling laser fired. It's still relatively fast, so it's not like we're missing out on a whole lot, and having more damage per shot just felt like a nice thing here. Let's rock it up again. I was using this with another power armor set that had a jetpack, and thinking about it, I really say using the jetpack feels very nice with this build because of the way the Tesla works. You don't have to aim with it, you can just shoot in the air, shoot while flying. You don't have to aim, so you can basically just fly over enemies and shoot at them in the process, which feels very cool. Makes for some cool scenaric pictures basically, or very scenaric moments in the game, where you just fly over enemies or jump from a roof and kill enemies in the process. Really cool. I didn't really bother to modify this here version though, and the other power armor set I was using was ultrasight, so I couldn't sadly use this cool skin here that was in the Atom Shop recently. It was for free. I'm thinking it could have probably been one of those limited time offers for Fallout First users, but I could misremember here. Really love the skin though. Bit of an odd decision to not make it blue and yellow in my opinion, because that's basically just what you're thinking about if you're thinking about Vault-Tec. But yeah, I really like this brownish greenish combination in tandem with the bright yellow. That's really cool. overall I gotta say thanks for the suggestion yet again, because this was really a fun time using this build. You really feel like a tank, you feel unstoppable, and ultimately due to the way that these two weapons work, I didn't really feel like I'm missing out on any department. Like, I'm not missing VATS, obviously. I mean, one thing I gotta say is I have used Tesla weapons with a VATS focus in the past, and while people always say these VATS effects on Teslas are useless, I kind of disagree. But that's a topic for another video. They work fine in VATS, obviously, and yeah, still, it's really nice to not bother with VATS for once. Just go ahead, free aim. You don't have to worry with this build at all. If you're using the Tesla rifle, you can basically just brain dead, aim anywhere, and hit your target. And using the Vampire's ultrasight laser, nothing really matters at all because you're just more or less invincible. I'm not quite sure what could be powerful enough to out DPS us. So one thing I could imagine is if we're swamped by a lot of Mr. Gutsies, that could potentially be a bit of trouble. But other than that, I don't really see any problematic situations. Yet again, the only thing you could probably miss out is a little bit of DPS. But yeah. Another nice thing for the Gatling laser is that you have quite good range here. You're getting a bit imprecise over range, obviously, but yeah, I say up to mid-range you can fight very effectively, and yeah, ammo consumption is very under control here due to our charging barrels. This guy here is a bit powerful, or rather tanky, let's say it that way, and yeah, for some reason every now and then I see a lot of super mutants scattered around this area here, which I can't really say they did. I basically found out that in the last few videos, oftentimes when I was talking about the perks and everything, I was rushed by single super mutants that I previously missed, and yeah, basically they're just roaming around this here area for some reason. But I think, okay, no, yeah, we're killing this guy and then I'm pretty sure we're finished here. And nice surprise that for the last enemy here, we're basically having a legendary. He's not even decided to shoot at us, but yeah. Oh look, a medic's missile launcher. Fun fact, I actually think about making a medic's explosive character at the moment, but yeah, we'll see. And I'm probably not going to use this missile launcher. This is going to be one of the worst weapons. Anyways, I will bother with my carry weight in a second here. We're now going to take a look at the perks and everything. So I hope you enjoyed the video so far. I hope you enjoyed the build. As I said, I had a lot of fun with it. Also, here you can see it yet again. I think the Tesla rifle works really well with this here power armor suit, just because yellow and yellow, you know. So yeah, let's get into it. We're now taking a look at our mutations. So we do have Bird Bones, Chameleon, Eagle Eyes, Egghead, Herbivore, Marsupial, Speed Demon, and Unstable Isotope. So this is basically my character where usually I'm not using power armor and I'm just running around and using VATS a lot. So you will see a lot of that nature here, but overall the mutations work relatively well still. Chameleon obviously does nothing here, but it has no downside, so I didn't bother to remove it. And Unstable Isotope, while usually it is a dead weight here on this character, I actually liked it for once because, yeah, if you're getting swarmed and enemies come close to you, you're just bursting in this radiation mushroom cloud. So that's nice to have, but not necessary again. So the important perks here are, in my opinion, Marsupial, Speed Demon, and Bird Bones. So Bird Bones, while on first glance it's not all that useful, because what do you do with extra agility here? You're not sprinting a whole lot, you're not using VATS a whole lot, so overall you might think that it's not all that important, but you want to have Marsupial basically for higher jumps. And what I found is when you're using power armor and Marsupial and jump, even the tiniest ledge you're jumping down from makes it so you have this power armor landing animation when you're hitting the ground, and I found that to be really bothersome over time. If every now and then you do that, And with bird bones you can basically just reduce the amount of times where you have this staggering animation. So that's why I decided to have it here. Eagle Eyes is absolutely dead weight here. We're not using VETs, so VETs crit damage is pointless, and extra perception we don't need either. The real thing here is though that yeah, we just have some debuffs to strength, and all they do is basically for us to reduce our carry weight. So I really didn't think it was necessary to remove it here. Ultimately the only difference you would see if I don't use it is maybe we have a little bit more carry weight, and yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, I decided against it. Then we do have Egghead here, which, take it or don't take it, I just liked it because yeah, yet again, strength we don't really need that for a whole lot. Endurance is a bit of a downside here since it makes us a bit less survivable, but at the end we're quite tanky just by being in power armor, so you saw it during the video, we didn't really have any problems here. And if we really get into a situation where we would have to fear about our lives, we could just use our Gatling laser and be invincible yet again. So I was just looking for this 6 intelligence buff, since we're actually quite intelligent from the get-go here, and putting another 6 intelligence on it is nice to have. So Herbivore, yet again dead weight here, doesn't have any downside for us, but we're not really using any upsides here. Could be useful, you probably find something here, but yeah, it just makes buffs from vegetarian diet basically more beneficial, so that's just here. So overall what I could say is Marsupial, Speed Demon, Eagle Eyes and Bird Bones, that are the perks, the mutations that I would have kept here if I just made it up from the scratch. But yeah, the rest, use it or don't use it, it's up to you. Then let's take a look at our equipment. Here we can see it, an anti-armor faster fire rate Tesla rifle. A quad version would obviously be very cool either. But other than that, yeah, I'm sure you find something. I just found anti-armor faster fire rate to be quite a nice combination here. Faster fire rate, I'm not even convinced you'd really need it. Basically, an anti-armor version, a 1-star version would be more than enough on this build actually. Could even be more beneficial due to the reason that you probably not have to reload so prematurely so often. But anyways, I think you know what the Tesla rifle is capable of. And then we have this here, Vampires, faster fire rate, Ultrasight Gatling laser with 250 damage resistance while reloading. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory here. Vampires works really well on fast firing weapons with a high ammo capacity. Faster fire rate is nice to have, so you could go down two routes, and either you're using the accelerated barrels to really double down on the fire rate. That could be insane, you can really tear down enemies very fast, but I decided to use the benefit of faster fire rate to justify the higher base damage of the weapon. So you can see here 90 damage for a fast firing weapon, that's pretty okay. So yeah, overall I found this combination to work relatively well. We have a beam focuser here and a reflex sight. So one thing you may have noticed is that the Gatling laser was shooting red instead of green. So being an ultrasight Gatling laser, usually this would fire these greenish beams, which could look very cool. I do like them aesthetically a lot, but basically in the process of modifying the weapon you often end up with this visual glitch. I think it's down to the beam focuser, just from the top of my head, that turns your lasers back into the standard red ones. But yeah, if you don't want to use that, it's fine, saves you some weight and you're still precise enough, but overall I just went with it anyways. In terms of armor, yeah, I already talked about it. We pretty much just have these reactive plates on our T-51 torso here, so enemies that do melee attacks to us get a little bit of damage in the process, but other than that it's just a plain and simple T-51B armor set. So to double down, I would like to modify the helmet with the modification that gives you extra intelligence, just for yet again leveling up a little bit more. As I said, for the torso I would either go for a jetpack or the core assembly to give us better AP refresh. And for the arms, yeah, for the legs I would go for calibrated shocks easily. So there's not a whole lot you need here, but some stuff you could do. And yeah, that's basically it in terms of equipment and mutations. And now we're going to take a look at the perks, arguably the most important thing here. So you can see here in strength we do have traveling pharmacy, just because as I said, we're not having the greatest carry weight, and yeah, this helps me a lot. I have a lot of stim packs here, they weigh me down dramatically, but obviously if you can live without it, don't use it. I will show you in a second what you can use it for. Here you see it. We do have all the heavy gunner perks at rank 2. If you can live without traveling pharmacy, just make them rank 3 and have a bit more damage. I found that rank 2 of those gave me a lot of damage, or enough damage to justify it. And ultimately for heavy gunners there are quite a few perks that can be very beneficial. Thinking about stuff like bear arms, for example, which makes heavy guns weigh much less, so you could carry a multitude of different versions, but I don't really use that because I'm just fine using the weapon I chose here. So yeah, even though on this occasion it would still save us like 30 pounds or something, but yeah. Faster reload on heavy weapons could be beneficial. Lock and load would be the perk, but yeah, the Gatling laser isn't really problematic when it comes to reloading. The reload time isn't all that crazy, so I don't really found it necessary here, and it wasn't really justified to put 3 perk points in it, in my opinion. One thing you could do, which I experimented a little bit, was using Pain Train in the build. Obviously always a fun decision, but in no way necessary. You already have 2 different versions of weapons that you're using, and ultimately I found myself using the Pain Train perk very little, so I decided against it. So we end up with 9 strength and just some plain and simple damage improvement for our heavy weapons. In perception, we yet again went for rank 2 of our damage perk cards, rank 2 of Master Heavy, Commando, Expert and Commando, so just to give us a little bit of a damage boost. Then we have Tank Killer to double down on our armor penetration that we already get from our legendary effect, and in addition to that we do have a chance to stagger, which in my opinion works very well on the Tesla rifle. We then have rank 2 of Grenadier, and this is one of the more interesting perks here. It's quite widely known, but still I'm not sure if anyone is aware of it. Basically the way I learned it was watching a video from Angry Turtle. The Tesla rifle benefits from Grenadier in a very special way, which is that you see when you're hitting the ground or hitting an enemy, your Tesla rifle shots, your arcs, they can arc to other enemies, and the distance they can arc is improved by the Grenadier perk. Sounds a bit stupid and a bit unintuitive, but basically it works very well. It gives you twice the radius, which works very well, especially if you want to attack enemies in a event or something. So I really went for this one here, and ultimately I had 1 point left, which I used for for ground pounder. Now you could arguably go up to perception 15 or 14, sorry, and use rank 3 of ground pounder. Wouldn't be a bad idea. You have to reload your Tesla rifle relatively often, but on the other hand I didn't feel like I was missing out on a whole lot here, so I just used that 1 rank for ground pounder, and combined with the speed demon mutation, our reload is still relatively fast. Then we do have endurance with rank 2 of Colonat and rank 3 of fireproof. So you can see that we still have 2 points left here to use. Basically what I do in endurance is, you could go for just Life Giver rank 4 instead of Colonat here. I didn't really bother to use a whole lot of perks here. I mean, I would definitely argue that fireproof is a good decision here, but other than that, it's not like you necessarily need anything special here. I just wanted to use, basically I built the whole character, and the points I had left I didn't really need. I put into endurance just to improve my survivability a little bit, and therefore yeah, you have 2 ranks here that aren't filled. As I said, rank 4 of Life Giver would be a nice decision just to boost your survivability a little bit here, but I'm pretty sure you find something beneficial. Colonat is just a nice thing overall, gives you good healing items, and other than that, If you're deciding to use a jetpack, Colonel can be very beneficial because it can boost your AP refresh so much that you can fly for a really long time. Basically look up things like the AC 130 builds that are PvP builds designed to just stay in the air for a long time. But yeah, pretty straightforward endurance, take fireproof, and then whatever you feel like. There's nothing you necessarily need. This was just to give us a bit more HP. Then we have Charisma. We do have rank 4 of Lone Wanderer and rank 3 of Tenderizer. Very prominent combination in my builds. Yeah, just boosting survivability, AP refresh, and damage. Very straightforward. Tenderizer still working multiplicative, and on both of our weapons it's very beneficial. We're not going to one-shot anything except maybe red roaches, so it's even hard to just do a single shot for us. So basically whenever we fire our weapons we get a benefit from Tenderizer, and that's very nice. Lone Wanderer, as I said, just more survivability and AP refresh. Yeah, go for inspirational and 1 rank of Strange in Numbers if you're in a team, and that's basically it. Then we have Intelligence, which is at 14, pretty high, which I like, especially now since double XP is active at the moment. So you saw there we were leveling quite fast. We do have rank 3 of First Aid, just if we're getting into a situation where we need it, we use that. This is the perk basically which you could switch with Power User if you would want to do that. First Aid, really not all that necessary here. You're rarely going to go down with your health so much as to need a stim pack. So yeah, you can definitely go for Power User here. I just decided against it because, yet again, it would be 3 more level ups, and you wouldn't really see a difference here other than, yeah, me wasting a little bit less fusion cores while firing my Gatling laser. So that was the reasoning here. Stabilized, on the other hand, this is a must-have in my opinion here, especially for a weapon like the Gatling laser, which has relatively small base damage but a high fire rate. More armor penetration, very nice to have. 45%, that's nothing to cough at. That's a real good improvement in damage output, and the accuracy as well makes the Gatling laser really precise to use and give us just more damage. Then we do have batteries included, which is very straightforward here. We want to carry a lot of fusion cores and fusion cells, and fusion cores, they are heavy. You really want to have batteries included if you carry a few of those. Fusion cells, well, you could live without batteries included if you were just going for fusion cells. They're relatively light, but still, you want to carry quite a lot of them, so batteries included was a must-have here in my opinion. And lastly, we went for rank 5 of Gunsmith. On the Tesla rifle, it's absolutely not necessary. The Tesla rifle has very good condition. The Gatling laser, on the other hand, I found that it could break relatively fast if I'm not using Gunsmith. It's ultimately just a convenience perk, so you don't have to take it. You can use those 5 perk points somewhere else, or maybe you will see I have quite a few perk points from legendary perks, so maybe you don't have access to so much perks. Gunsmith and First Aid, those are basically the perk points you can spare from this build very easily, and obviously you can go down with Endurance. Now we're going to take a look at Agility, which is at 10. We do have rank 3 of Action Boy, rank 5 of Adrenaline, and rank 2 of Dodgy here. So, pretty straightforward. Adrenaline is just there for better damage output. Action Boy, ultimately what I would have liked to do if it wasn't so much of a hassle is went with rank 2 of Action Boy and rank 3 of Dodgy. So, you can switch those around. But yeah, they're giving us a bit more survivability and a bit more AP refresh. So basically Dodgy is the reason why AP refresh still is a bit beneficial for us, so we can just use Dodgy more and basically tank more damage. But you can feel free to experiment a little bit here. The more important bit was basically Adrenaline, because we have some very solid weapons, but in terms of raw damage output, they're not the greatest. They're very nice for utility, but having Adrenaline to just boost our damage a bit is nice to have. And then lastly we do have Luck at 5, which I used for rank 2 of Starch Jeans. Obvious reason here, we just want to keep our mutations. And then we have rank 3 of Bloody Mess. So here there are quite a few options you have. You could go for rank 3 of Tormentor in order to cripple enemies. You could go for rank 3 of One Gun Army, which would be beneficial. So basically both of those perks would give you the ability to cripple enemies relatively easy. I ultimately didn't find it all that bothersome though and necessary to cripple my enemies. Another decision you could have made here is improve your survivability with Ricochet. Would work very well once you're using the Gatling laser, but on the other hand, if I was in need of more survivability, you'd basically just have your vampires Gatling laser, and that renders most damage defense perks rather useless because the healing effect from the vampire's effect on the Gatling laser is just so potent. One obvious reason you could perk you could always take is just Class Freak to reduce the negative effects from our mutations, but as I explained during the video where we were talking about the mutations, none of the debuffs from our mutations really cripple our build itself. They just take down a little bit of our convenience, mostly the strength, which gets debuffed. But yeah, that ultimately just translates to carry weight. So that's basically the only benefit you're getting here. And so I ultimately went with rank 3 of Bloody Mess. It's a bit of a damage boost. I think on the Tesla rifle it's basically just like 12 points of damage, and on the Gatling laser it's something like 7 points or so. So it's really not the most beneficial thing here, but still it's a bit of a damage improvement. And one thing I really miss if I'm not using Bloody Mess sometimes is just the ability to make these gory explosions when you're killing enemies. But yeah, that was it in terms of the regular perks. So as you can see, a lot of room to swap around here, a lot of things to experiment with. It's basically just going to end up as a little bit of a compromise with what you prefer to specialize in and what not. And here we have our legendary perks. So the boring ones right off the get-go are extra agility, luck and intelligence. So not a lot to talk about here. Those just give us more perk points to spend. Very straightforward, not a lot to say. We do have electric absorption, which basically is a must-have in my opinion if you're running a power armor build, because it just straight up powerful and has no debuffs. Yeah, it has a chance to recharge your fusion cores, and more importantly, if that happens, it has a chance to heal you. So honestly, with rank 2, I think there's not a single enemy that can kill you with energy damage. Even the Sheep Squatch imposter shouldn't be able to damage you, it rather heals you. I'm pretty sure. Maybe you need rank 3 there, but yeah. It's just a very powerful perk. Then I have rank 1 of Funky Dots. So this is basically, you can use whatever here, but yeah. Poison can really wear us down a little bit, and we are wearing a matching set, so this effect procs here, giving us a little bit of poison resistance. Very straightforward, very easy here, not a lot to say. You could always obviously boost it high up. I've just found that fighting a Mylar Queen, for example, if she really takes on a lot of damage over time, this can wear you down quite heavily and make it so if she catches you with a few spits while you have to reload your Gatling laser, that could be a situation where maybe you die. So yeah, Funky Darts helps with that. But another good decision here would be if you run with a team and go for rank 3 of Inspirational and rank 1 of Strange in Numbers in Charisma, you could use this here perk slot instead for taking one for the team. That would be a very obvious decision there. And lastly, we do have Far-Flung Fireworks, more of a gimmick, but works very well on this character in my opinion, especially with the Tesla rifle. So if you're fighting a horde of ghouls or something, especially if you're getting swarmed, that's a lot of fun. If you're at Whitespring, for example, just gather your ghouls around you, stand in the middle and just hold the trigger, and you have a very good chance that 1 or 2 of them will explode when they die and do damage in the process. So you see the Far-Flung Fireworks perk go off quite a lot compared to other characters, just by the way the Tesla rifle works here. But that was it, guys. I'm sure you would find some ways to improve this here character. I really do. It's not super min-maxed or anything, but I was surprised by how well the combination of heavy guns and commando weapons worked here. Um, if I had anything to say about the build yet, it was something I touched on in the early minutes of the video. Yeah, it really comes down to which weapons you prefer to use, and ultimately, yeah, I always say if you're not using VETs, you do miss out on a lot of damage potential just by not using crits, but it can really be fun to not bother with VETs for once, and if you're ready to burn through fusion cores and fusion cells, this character here is a lot of fun, very easy to play. You can just really relax, you don't have to worry about anything, and basically don't miss out on any content in the game. You can pretty much succeed or participate in every event. There's no limits for this character. And yeah, that was it, guys. Maybe a little sneak peek in what's coming up in the future. So the next broad scheme of things I want to touch is not so much a aesthetic scheme, but yeah, I want to do something I wanted to do for a while, which is look a little bit into builds that use legacy weapons. I'm not quite sure how you guys will react to that. I know that this build channel here basically focuses on more weaker weapons or anything, but I'm slowly running out of testing weaker weapons, and I think we can touch a little bit on more powerful stuff here. And legacies are just a really big part of this game. And yeah, I was thinking about just doing a few hybrid builds that use legacy weapons, and I try to use them in an interesting way. Sometimes I'm trying to use these legacies in order to make builds work that otherwise wouldn't really work so well. Sometimes I'm just using the sheer power of legacies in order to get away with using more convenience perks or something. So I want to make sure to make this a bit more interesting than just, yeah, this is a commando weapon, commando build with which is using a legacy weapon. Stick with me there. If you have concerns or think I shouldn't do that or anything, just let me know in the comments. And lastly, the very last thing I promise that I want to say here is I really enjoyed working on a build that was suggested to me from the comment section. So if you guys feel like your build could be interesting, you can just straight up send me your build exactly, or just tell me what combination of weapons you use, or what you do enjoy, what you would like to see. I'm always open to these kind of comments. So yeah, let me know, guys, and bye.